All right, so I'd like to go ahead and at this point introduce Dustin from Proven Media Designs. Hey, I want the key, you know?
Everybody, thank you for having me. Danelle, Dave, thank you for getting me in the door and make sure I was on track. Laura for make sure I stick to 6 minutes because she's gonna chop my head off, I was told. And of course, Anne for the coffee. I have an 8-month-old at home, so coffee is a necessity. So, let's see, how do I use this clicker? What do I put? I've actually never used a clicker in a presentation. All right. Okay.
There we go. There we go. All
So,
right.
welcome everybody.
You got a license in clickers.
Yeah, right. So presentation today, we're going to talk about putting you in the press. My name is Dustin Siggins, founder of Proven Media Solutions, and our goal is to get our clients into the press, regardless of the kind of press they want to get. So, as I just said, anyone can get in the press. If anyone here, any of your friends, any of your neighbors can get in the press. We've either ourselves individually or gotten our clients placed in all of the above. But even these publications are just a sampling, and frankly, sometimes the New York Times may not be the best for you. Maybe it's the local press, maybe it's regional press or trade publications. Covering all of the above is an important part of the strategy for getting in the press. So does anyone here think that getting in the press is not going to be very helpful to their business? Okay, good. A lot of people question what the value is. I'm just going through a few examples here. If you use social media, a gentleman in the back talked about posting on LinkedIn, it's a lot more valuable if you have your own material to put out there, if you've been quoted, if you've been placed in an op-ed, or other things on your social media. It's a lot more value to the people who are seeing you and may find you credible. It can help you reach discriminating clients. A lot of times social media isn't that valuable if your clientele is grossing $1 million, like a designer I met recently. But getting placed in the right publications will help her audience get to know her. Show your target market who you are, not just what you do. Marketing says, here's our product or service, come buy it. PR says, this is who we are. Don't you like who we are and what we do? And PR helps make you, publicity helps make you fireproof before the fire. Is proactive crisis management, because something's gonna happen bad here. You know, maybe a business is gonna leave Fairfax and they're gonna write it, they're gonna talk about it. But if you have a lot of really good stories out there, then you can say, oh, well, you know, one business left had a bad experience. We have 6,000 others who told the press that they had a great experience, or told social media they had a great experience. If you have an idea, you can get into the press. And the way to do that, as we're about to discuss, is 4 internal questions. To what media outlets are your potential clients paying attention? Who are the gatekeepers at those outlets? Are they the producers, reporters, editors, and the like? How do you get attention of those gatekeepers? Is it an email? Is it text message? Is it Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn? And then what topics are valuable to those gatekeepers? And then these are the 4 keys. Once you've answered those internal questions, there's 4 keys to getting past the gatekeepers. And this is really where we specialize with our clients. With your timing. As I said, CPAs, April's a good time to get published. Thanksgiving, no one really cares about your taxes. The topic. I'm up here talking about publicity. I'm not talking about engineering or graphics. Because if I did, you'd all see through it pretty quickly. The title. My background is political journalism. If a congressman or a senator or the US president wants to get an op-ed published, people are more likely to pay attention to it. The gatekeepers will like that. If it's a legislative correspondent, it's a low-level staffer, they're going to say, who cares? There's 1 billion people like you. But there's only 435 members of Congress. And lastly, you need connections. And connections can be everything from a one-time pitch and crafting the right pitch with the right subject line to get the attention of the gatekeeper, or it can be developing relationships over a period of time. So going coffee, reaching out to people who are really friendly at first. That way, as you build your brand, over time, then you reach out to less friendly or neutral audiences, which have already established connections at reputation, credible publications with solid reputations to get your start. Today, we've had dozens of clients since we've started. We have business trade associations, actually where I came from, and I took them from 200 placements in 1 year to 1,200 the following year. That's 600% growth. The New York Times, Washington Post, Huffington Post, USA Today actually called us for an op-ed. LA Times, Boston Globe. One of my favorite clients to talk about is an Austrian startup. They were doing a Kickstarter project. They raised $400,000 in 2 days on Kickstarter, and we got them placed in 3 outlets, 2 of which were must-have outlets. one of those outlets, they told me afterwards, brought $15,000 in donations. And the cool thing about this is we're not an Austrian-based company, we're not in Tripods or Kickstarter, any of those things. But our process of reaching out to the press, of developing the right content, developing the pitch, helped them get that success. Last year, we had a client who was working on a prayer event as part of one of 1,300 locations in 44 countries to pray for healing from the Catholic clergy abuse scandal. We helped them get the most viewed video in their 10-year history. We got an op-ed that went well outside of their existing, within their target market, but outside their existing circle of influence. And they were very happy. In fact, they brought us back on this spring for a different project. And lastly, a law firm just a few weeks ago argued a case about the False Claims Act related to government contractors and a whistleblower. And they brought us on board to get attention to this very little known, little noticed, but very important issue of government contractor alleged abuse of, I think, $10 million in taxpayer funding. We have managed to surpass revenue expectations for our first year, and we're not fully done with our first year. And our new website is actually soft launched today. You'll be the first people to see it. Dave, where's? Okay, Dave's gonna pop it up here at the end of the presentation. And then our current marketing strategies. We are connecting with leaders in industries and verticals, outreach, coffee, cold calls. A member of the Tower Club here at Tyson's Corner. Thank you, Laura. And so that's been very helpful in meeting with mentors, clients and potential clients, client referrals. My political network, my past work as a journalist, presentations like this one, our new website, and thought leadership through publication. For example, Mark Cuban, I did an interview with Mark Cuban the other week, got that up at Home Business Magazine. I'm a columnist at PJ Media, which is a leading conservative publication, and I've reached out to a couple of left-leaning publications to do monthly columns there. And that way, basically free marketing. It takes me 3 hours to write an op-ed, and I can get it published. And our challenges. Should we go to the website first? Thank you, Dave. So this is the soft launch today. I think it's not fully in place, but this is the new website that we put up today. And we're very pleased because the website, when we first launched the business, was a touchstone for most of our clients, and now we believe it's going to be a driver of sales. And as you can see, scrolling down just a little bit more, Dave, if you don't mind. Oh, right there. So this, I've been personally published 3,000 times, with dozens of placements, radio and TV, and my team, including social media and other folks who are part of the freelance team, have about 100 years experience in communications business strategy. Thanks, Dave. So again, that's the soft launch. We have a few more items going up later this week, but that's the basic nuts and bolts of the site. Our two major challenges. Creating a brand narrative for the company. A lot of people don't know what publicity and PR are. So people can tell me before or after we're done here, did this presentation explain things well for you? I find that facts help because, for example, I've been published 3,000 times. They provide some credibility to people when they want to know, can you get me published? And then our other challenge is finding qualified leads. Our marketing strategies are helping, but the client pool is so broad. It can be a stay-at-home mom who wants to do a mommy blog, to a high-ranking, a CEO with 5,000 employees. So our strategy we're developing a strategy to quickly determine our qualified leads versus unqualified leads. So those are our two challenges there. And did I make it time, Laura?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fill my head up, great. Is there anything else that I should say, or are you going to hop into questions?
Hold on, our moderator's coming up.
Oh, sorry.
Great job, Dustin.
Thank you.
All right, so at this point, we're gonna start asking Dustin some questions. Please announce your name and your business before we begin. And who'd like to start? Raise your hand. All right. But I saw Laura first, so we'll go with Laura.
So have you divided the markets that you want to focus? Like you are very good in politics, so what is the main market that you really want to focus?
We're focusing on nonprofits, small businesses, and the political world in general. Though we're focusing less on tackling the target market because we're still so young, that we want to focus more on establishing credibility, generally speaking.
Okay, thank you.
Alan?
You said, Alan Anderson, part-time sales assistant. You said you've been published 3 times. Did you mean you've gotten your clients published 3,000 times, or you've been published?
Me personally, whether it's under my own name for former employers or ghostwriting for clients, gotten published 3,000 times.
Ghostwriting for clients. So my thinking is you're trying to do this for your clients, not you.
Correct.
Something about that statement says you need to say, I've helped my clients get published. Because I don't
Sure.
give a damn about, I'm sorry, I don't care about you, I care about what you done for your clients.
Sure,
That's part of my-
and we've actually had a discussion about that internally, because some people are very impressed by it, and some people say, I don't give a darn who have you gotten your clients published with. So we've had different reactions. A lot of people, when I say I've personally been published 3,000 times, their eyebrows go through the roof. So it depends on who I'm talking to.
So this is going to be a two-part question. Tony, independent consultant. First question is, how do organizations, individuals, politicians, and the like, how do they get published in these media outlets currently? What's the process? How do they get an article or something else like that published?
Sure. So the process, broadly speaking, is you have a topic that is timely. If I can shoot back a couple of slides, just real quick. It's yes. So timing, topic, title, and connection. So typically, people who are well established in their fields, they have the timing of an issue. Let's say there's a budget issue, and someone wants to talk about cutting spending.
But do I just sit there and send an article off to the Washington Post and say, publish this?
But you can,
Uh-huh.
and this is the challenge. A lot of people believe that, well, if you have established connections, for example, in 5 years of coffee meetings with the Washington Post op-ed editors, there's 6 of them, that you're going to be able to get published, and that's not the case. A lot of times, it's a great subject line, it's a great title that you have within yourself, and then you have a great piece written with the right timing and topic.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Well, it leads into what my second part of the question, which
Okay.
is, so how is it you're going to benefit those of us who are, for lack of any other terms, ignorant to the process?
Sure.
How is it you're going to facilitate it and make our lives easier by taking what we want and getting our content
Sure.
published in this media?
Sure, a couple of things. One is the average person, them writing an op-ed or a press release or building a media list, they're not experienced in it, so it takes them a lot of time. So we're saving people a ton of time by getting placements, and they use it as an effective part of their social media strategy or other components or email marketing strategy, that we are providing a strong foundation for that. Additionally, publicity is free marketing if it's placed. So obviously they're paying us, but there's free marketing on the other side. And while we had talked to a client the other day, a potential client who has no credibility, no public persona at all, that person's not going to get in the New York Times tomorrow. So we often have to help them build that credibility, which can be done fairly quickly, but it helps them establish credibility when we have the right connections and those 4 keys that I mentioned to quickly establish in terms of, say, 0 to 4 on a scale of 20.
Now, are you affiliated with specific marketing firms or associated with a group of marketing firms that would be utilizing your services on almost a daily basis as their clients need things?
No, we are reaching out to PR firms, for example, and other organizations for exactly that purpose.
Okay. Perfect.
And Danelle, I owe you an apology because I did not listen to your good advice on an earlier question.
I was just wondering, do you have like a CRM system? I mean, I have found out much later in my business that really helps you to keep track of your leads and what really works and what doesn't.
We don't have one currently, but I just actually had lunch with somebody recently who strongly recommended it. And
Or
so,
Nutshell.
Hmm?
Nutshell is a really good one. It's
Okay.
you can do it for free, and it's there's a lot of them out there that's really expensive. So
Okay.
it's just a recommendation. To keep
That's
track of
helpful,
the
thank
leads. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Right.
So I want to go back to your second challenge, which was how to determine qualified leads. First, I'd really look at the current clients that you have, and I'd look at where your personal expertise is, which I heard in the political realm, and I'd analyze what you sell, and as I listened, what I heard to be the most important thing you sell is connections. relationships, whatever you'd like to call it,
That's
because
yeah.
some of us are pretty good writers, and while it might take me longer than the 3 hours it takes you, I know more about my business than you do at the moment, and therefore I could, if I'm a good writer, I might be able to, with your quick review of it, get it in perfect shape. So what you really have is the relationships with people in high places that are important to this process.
Correct.
And therefore, when you have that expertise, and your expertise is in the political realm, narrowing the pool is critical, and utilizing your expertise in that industry first and foremost, and then second in the industries where your existing clients are, because you can double very easy from 6 to 12, and I have no idea how many clients have you. If each client gives you a referral because you did such a great job.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Please.
So one of the marketing strategies we are using is thought leadership through publication.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent.
And so, for example, Home Business Magazine, I'm publishing a monthly column with them. The Mark Cuban interview went up there. Recently was published at Virginia Business, and the Washington Post is publishing in the very near future on education. So my question to you is that my goal is to expand beyond the political realm, and I probably even shouldn't have mentioned the political journalism, because a lot of people do zero in on that and then ask the question, if your background's in politics, how can you help me in business? And so my question to you is, do you believe that doing thought leadership pieces at, for example, Virginia Business, Washington Post, Home Business Magazine, and the like on a twice monthly basis would improve the credibility and expand the pool into other markets?
So, if you're providing that, I think the strategy of thought leadership through publication is excellent.
Okay.
Now I question which you're using. But I also I love the idea, because you came out of a trade association that targeting that as a second area, although half of them have lobbying arms anyway, so it is political. I don't see you veering very far, but they're different organizations. That's an excellent way to expand.
Okay.
But I would therefore make sure that your publications are placed where those executives can read your thoughts. And I don't know that they're reading the journals that you mentioned.
Sure. Fair.
Okay. One last point, I'm in the business of CRM, so while we're not free, you get what you pay for also, and we'll talk later.
Understood.
Sorry to jump on
Please.
what John was just saying. Do a little guerrilla marketing, okay? Make a flyer with your articles that are compelling, that would be eye-catching, like the Mark Cuban, things like that. Don't give them the whole article, just samples, so they see, just like the USA, created the blurb. Just put something together and send it or deliver it to the communications offices at a lot of the major corporations around here. Now, this area, Fairfax County, is headquartered with 5 of the Fortune 500, or 9, I can't remember if it's 9 or 5.
Yeah.
How many, Ann?
I think it's 9.
9, yeah.
Nice.
But they all have massive communications offices, okay? They already probably have relationships with the very publications that you're working with, right? Doesn't matter. Send them your stuff. Because what will happen is that they get overwhelmed, they get inundated, they have something that's coming up. They're going to look to somebody to take care of it for them.
Right.
All right. Then once you get one of them, you can leverage that in getting others. But a little
Right.
guerrilla marketing for what you're doing, it's perfect.
Okay.
It's easy. It's a low cost, and you'll probably get bigger bang for your buck from just going around and delivering either by mail or And I would do it by mail. I wouldn't do it by email.
By email, no?
No,
Okay.
because email you get dismissed too easily.
Okay.
But you send them something that looks compelling, that's catches their attention, and they open it and read it, and then at the end they sit there and say, "Oh, wow, this is what this guy does." Cool.
Can you write that down so we can follow up?
Yes.
Because I would love to chat with you more about that.
Okay.
Oh, wow, three more questions.
Hi, I'm Helene. I'm with the Grayson Company. And I think I'm piggybacking on Tony's first comment around your brand narrative. There's a lot in the presentation, and it may be different on your website, about you and what you do, but not necessarily about what you do to add value or solve problems. And that's what I feel like I was a little disconnected on, is
Okay.
how do you add value to me? What problem of mine do you solve? Like, it's great you've been published and you've done these things and these are great credentials, but what are you gonna do for me? I felt is what was missing.
Okay.
And then categorizing your business a little bit more. So kind of segmenting it, like who do you help? Individuals, businesses, politicians, like trying to, if I'm going to your website in particular, I wanna know like who do you work with? What types of things or people or organizations? So just putting that into a clearer perspective for someone who's just gonna give you that 6-second read at first.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
And
Well, and just to build on that, I think that's a great comment. So the measures of performance, I thought you did a very good job, worked with this organization, they expanded their network by getting published in these periodicals, etc. But the measures of effectiveness, so what then was the result for that organization? Were there more donations? You know, do you try to track that to quantify not just the expanded reach, but the results of that expanded reach?
We try to. Sometimes a lot of our clients, the ROI isn't direct, if that makes sense.
Right.
Sometimes it is simply we got published and that's their important short-term goal. Though we always try to look at the 5-year goal of our clients. So I appreciate you bringing that up because that's why I mentioned the $15,000 because that's one of the few times where we can actually say this is the direct ROI. But I appreciate the reminder to bring more of those into both the presentation and to future potential client conversations.
Yes, so I would take the thought leadership in a different direction.
Okay.
I'm wondering if, rather than investing your time and energy to publish in these multiple periodicals multiple times a month, if you can find a couple of clients that you are going to adopt and say, listen, for the next 6 months, I'm doing this pro bono. I need this more than the cash that I'm gonna get from this sale, and put them as the thought leaders in these columns so that you can turn around and tell future clients, my work allowed John Smith to now have a monthly publication in Home Business Magazine Review. See how he's now a thought leader in this magazine? I got him that spot.
Okay.
See how Jane Smith is now
Sure.
publishing in such and such every month? I'm the one who made that happen for her. And so now your ghostwriting is putting their name on it because at this point your name is irrelevant, as others are saying in the room. It's more what you can do for others.
Sure.
So if you put that same level of effort to writing, but put someone else's name on it, and you claim the credit that Proven Media Solutions got that person and look how they're now a thought leader, I can do that for you.
Interesting. Thank you.
Joe?
So, I really was.
Thank you.
So it's just a question probably, so that, what's the difference between yourself and a public relations company? Or are you?
So public relations is first of all, it's a catch-all term, and secondly, it often involves a lot more broad scope. We do have that scope inside our company, but rather than branding ourselves as a PR firm, we are specifically branding ourselves as a writing and publishing process company because the PR term is so broad and there's so many firms that market themselves that way. I'm not familiar with every single PR firm in the country, but I know just a couple of dozen, and only one of them, for example, markets themselves as a writing and publishing related firm. So this is designed to sort of do the lost leader strategy to a degree, where we make some money on the writing, which gets people's eyebrows going up, but it also, we make the real money on some of the connection that this gentleman mentioned on the back end of that. So that's why we are specifically being tightly focused. Does that make sense? Did it answer your question?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Oh, those are
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
dodgy.
I would imagine that's a common takeaway from in the conversation when you talk about your company. So you guys are PR. You guys are PR company. You guys are PR firm. I would imagine.
Based upon when I ask people, when I talk to people, they say, "What do you do?" And I say PR firm. People, they might shrug. They might say, "Yay." When we say we get people published or we get you in the press, there's a lot more positive reaction to that. So that's our sort of penny candy, if you will, strategy.
I'm kind of piggybacking on him. I don't know if I missed this. Do you have like specific relationships with like Washington Post or something like you tell your client, okay, I'm going to get you published on
we do have some of those relationships, but most of the time we get our clients published with, or much of the time we get our clients published through these process strategy that I outlined here during the presentation, because the relationships are oftentimes less important, because I can have the greatest relationship with the business editor of the Washington Post, but if it's something more art, it doesn't really matter. So a lot of times it's really about the process that we have in place in order to get the client published.
Two things. That was boring. It's much better to talk about your connections when you're out marketing than talking about your process in the most serious way.
Okay.
Yes, you're 100% right. What you're doing is you gotta have the right subject line, you gotta have the right content, it's gotta be timely.
Right.
All of those ingredients are really important, no doubt about it. And you're gonna lead your client to that. But in your marketing, that's not what buyers really wanna hear, is my thought. But the other thing I wanted to say, perhaps contrary, I don't think you should spend much time on the small businesses if you're talking about companies of 10 and below. I'm not suggesting they don't have needs, I'm sure they do. I think the sales process is longer, the budgets are tighter, and the client acquisition cost is highest as a percentage of revenue the smaller you are. And going back to Tony referring to the 9 Fortune 500s, just take the larger, medium to large companies as your targets, and it may cost no more to get into them than get into a small business.
My business partner agrees with you.
Must be one smart individual.
I've known him since I was born, so I call him Dad.
Well, other than his judgment in children, he did very well.
You and I will talk later.
Okay. I usually don't throw out these many ideas, but this is a very unique situation you have, and I haven't encountered it before. I'm going to ask you a quick question. How fast do you write?
Quickly?
Okay.
You want a number
Well,
attached to that?
no. I'm just if you feel you're a fan. I mean, for instance, for me, I could spend a day writing a letter because of the fact that I keep, reiterating it
Sure.
in my head before I'm finally happy with it.
I'm very, very fast.
Okay. Write a book.
Working on that.
Okay. Write a book. Make it funny.
Okay.
I'm dead because I can sense that you have a really good sense of humor. You're restrained in this because this is a business process that you're doing today.
Correct.
But I have this very sneaking suspicion that behind that is someone who has a very dry and very biting sense of humor.
Both good points.
Okay? Write a funny book about what you do or how you're doing the process of how to get published. Because this goes back to the guerrilla marketing side of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right? You publish a book, and you can publish any size book, it doesn't matter. But write, a good one that will get someone's attention, okay?
Mhm.
Send that to the marketing branches of these major corporations.
Mhm.
So the marketing people now have something as a touch point. They read the book, they become connected to you emotionally
Mhm.
because they've read your book. What will they do?
Mm-hmm.
They'll reach out to you
Right.
and give you business.
Right.
You can then start speaking off
Right.
of that book
Right.
and speaking about how to get published. And you can go to organizations and travel around talking about how to get published in major media.
Mm-hmm.
And you now create an emotional connection with the audience who then remembers you and keep it funny,
Right.
not, insulting, but keep it funny about, what,
Sure.
and I'm sure you have a wealth of stories. The smile just indicated, you
I'm
talk
good at
about-
one-on-one. I'm not as getting to large groups. I don't know everyone's sense of humor, and so I try to keep a little more restrained.
Yeah, so I have write a funny book.
Okay.
Anecdotes about what you've gone through, what people have done,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Okay.
I just have to add on to Tony's remarks because, number one, when I was talking to you, I think you do have a great sense of humor.
Thank you.
I do think you are trained. But from Tony's book, there was a book that was printed in the 60s, I know I'm showing you age, but it was the funniest damn thing I ever read, and it was all about PR and marketing.
Okay.
And it was like a read of, 40 minutes. You didn't want to stop. And it was called From Those Wonderful Folks Who Gave You Pearl Harbor by Jerry Della Femina, a giant in the industry in the time. So please read that book, laugh, and get some ideas from it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Darnell. Uh-oh.
So the thing that keeps coming up to me as you speak is what you really do is you help people tell their story and build their brand.
Correct.
And get it placed.
Yes, but when you help them tell their story, it's telling their story to a broad audience. If you're going to get me published in the New York Times or you just created a larger audience for me. And so what you're really doing is telling your story, building your brand, building your brand to a large audience. And so that brand narrative, you really don't have to put PR in there. It's really just doing those two things.
Okay. Telling your story through the public, the written word, or through publishing, something like that, you mean?
Yes, you're telling people's story.
Your
Okay.
client stories.
Yeah, your client stories.
Okay.
And by telling their story is how you make money
Right.
and how they make money as well. It's a win-win situation
Mm-hmm.
because you're broadening that audience to them in such a way that they can get more clients, and then you're making them more credible.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And with that, we have one final question.
And that goes to Donnell.
Oh yeah.
Darnell.
Yeah, this is I only fill in on that question when he's not here.
So the final question is what can our 1 million cups audience do for you?
If there are people within your organizations, within your networks, who would desire to be published, but don't know how to do it, that tells me that they probably have a budget and a vision. They don't necessarily know the process. Tell them that we know the process and take their budget and their vision in the right direction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, next week